Hello and welcome to Real Talk, the show where we talk all things film. I'm joined by my fellow cinephile, Damien Pickett.
Hello, now to our first segment on the show, the weekly rundown where we talk through the biggest releases from the past week.
Now, Damien, there's only one place to start this week. Blade Runner 2049,
of course.
A sequel to one of the greatest, not just the greatest sci-fi film ever made, but for me, one of the greatest films ever made, period. What did you think of it?
Blown away. One of the best movies of the year. You've obviously got Denis Villeneuve directing it, a man behind Sicario and Arrival, which came out last year. Ryan Gosling, the main actor in our film, and also headlining with him is Harrison Ford, the main actor from the original Blade Runner. And he does a fantastic job, Harrison Ford. He brings his A game more so than he did in the first film, which is a big thing to say because he did an awesome job in the first movie. Ryan Gosling is right up there as well with him. The music, in my opinion, captured that atmosphere that the first movie had, which is a really hard thing to do because you don't want it to be too nostalgic. You don't want it to be too relying on that memory of, like you said, a great film. But I think this is better than the first film, which is a very high praise indeed.
It is high praise indeed. I thought it was beautifully shot by Roger Deakins,
yes.
One of the best cinematographers in the game. If he doesn't get screw nominated, if he doesn't get the Oscar for it,
yeah.
There's some serious injustice there, right?
I would say this is one of the most beautiful looking films I've ever seen, and he is an incredible cinematographer. This is well known. This is a man who should have won an Oscar, I think, for other films, including other films he's directed for Denis Villeneuve, which is like Sicario and Prisoners.
Exactly.
And I think it's high time now that he gets an Oscar, especially for this movie.
Well, I spent 6 hours in the cinema watching Blade Runner. I watched it twice, and I thoroughly recommend it to everyone.
Definitely.
Another film that's getting overlooked in the cinema this week is Joe Nesbo's adaptation of The Snowman, which stars Michael Fassbender. There's not been great reviews for it. You've checked it out. What do you think of it?
It's not gotten great reviews for a very good reason because it is one of the poorest films I've seen this year. I will say they have ideas in this film which seems like it will be an incredible film or a good mystery crime film. The execution is one of the poorest I've ever seen with a great director behind it who's also directed Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. You expect a lot more, and I walked out of this movie confused, not because of the plot, but there's certain loose ends in the film. There's certain actions that the characters take. It just doesn't make sense as a film. I'm pretty sure when the director and the producers were all making the show, making the movie, excuse me, I don't think they had an idea.
They were out of sync.
Honestly, and also you have a performance by Val Kilmer, and when he speaks, this is how poor the film is. When he speaks, his mouth doesn't sync up to the dialogue which he has. It's really weird, and it puts you out of the film. And just how weird that is what's like throughout the rest of the movie.
Now, we've both been busy at the cinema in the last week, but we still haven't got round to watching the latest horror flick that is The Ritual.
Yeah. Now, I have heard really good reviews about this movie, and here's a snippet for you all at home.
I woke up last night and look at this.
Nothing has done that to you. You've done it to yourself.
Listen, mate, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you.
No, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you.
A few friends lost in the woods, bad things happen, Damien. I feel like I've seen this film before.
Well, when I watched the trailer, I actually thought that it was a secret little sequel to the Blair Witch Project. It does look like a conventional horror movie. Like you said, you've got the friends in the woods, you've got that weird witchy element to it. But with the good reviews, I think in this holiday season, we have Halloween, obviously. Might take a couple of friends to see it. And if it's got good reviews, what's bad with seeing just a good horror film?
And it's got some stiff competition, hasn't it? It's got Happy Death Day and obviously Jigsaw next week, which is the big one.
I mean, it's been 7 years since the last since the last Saw movie in general. I mean, I was 13 when I saw that.
I was 14 and I snuck into that film, man.
Ooh, we're both little rebels sneaking into 15-rated films.
But right now, it's time to do a Marty McFly and go back to the future as we look forward to the hottest topics in film. Obviously, for me, the biggest news of the week is the release of the new Star Wars trailer, Damien. We have footage for that right here, right now.
When I found you, I saw raw, untamed power. And beyond that, something special.
Damien, I was nearly hiding behind that sofa, staying away from the spoilers. I do not want this film spoiled. Does it do a good job of preserving things for the fans?
I think the similarities between it and The Force Awakens and Rogue One is that the marketing behind this movie, they're really trying to hide the plot of the film for good reason. But if you're trying to stay away from spoilers, like you were saying, you don't want to know too many things. This specific trailer has one little scene in it that I would consider maybe not a massive spoiler, but enough to walk into the movie and be a little bit disappointed that you know what's going to happen. But you have a director like Rian Johnson behind it, a man behind Looper, one of the greatest science fiction films I've ever seen.
Yep, I agree.
How can you not be excited? What do you think, though?
Yeah, I'm so hyped for this movie, man. This is the most anticipated film of the year for me. I'm a massive Star Wars fan. You know, the idea of it being The Last Jedi, all the Sith red on the posters, Luke Skywalker looking really mysterious with the cloak. It only spells one thing for me, and that's the possibility of Luke being a Sith, which would be amazing.
Don't tease me like that. My child within me is like, I can cry just thinking about it, no. But let me put it up to you this other way. What if Rey was a Sith?
I mean, that'd be great, to be honest. I really want to see a big turn because the first sequel in each trilogy seems to have a really big plot twist that changes the sequence of the series. So I'm betting on something really big along those lines happening. And it would be coherent with Rey's character as well because we literally know nothing about her.
Nothing
the question
at all.
of her origin is the biggest part of this trilogy. So I think it might rest on her. But in other news, we also have the release of the new X-Men franchise, The New Mutants. It looks like it's going to start a new series of films. Fox has done a great job of keeping the identity of these films completely separate from the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
It's completely different. At least the trailer makes it look completely different than any other comic movie I've ever seen. It's set in one location, supposedly. It looks like it's going to be a horror film, maybe possibly rated R again, like Logan was.
I'm hoping so.
And with Fox, I think if they take these risks, that's what's going to separate them from other comic book studios like Marvel, like DC, because they are taking these risks. And the trailer looks amazing. You've got Maisie Williams, who's also Arya Stark in Game of Thrones. Shout out to all my Game of Thrones fans out there. And the trailer does look completely different. Now, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I'm so hyped for it, man. I mean, the problems that a lot of hardcore X-Men fans had with the series, that it was getting kind of generic, you know, a different villain every film, same old plot, same old story. Now we've had an amazing Western with Logan. Deadpool, like you said, has found its own feet. And now we have a horror film, yet fans are saying, this is an X-Men, this is a horror film. You can't please the fans. I praise them for taking a different path and making each film a separate genre because it's a bold thing to do. I'm so excited for it. It's got stiff competition against the Avengers next year, but you know, me and you will be in the... I'm
going to be the first one in the theater to see the New Mutants, though, easily. It looks exciting. Like you said with Deadpool, you know, you've got the comic book genre having a comedy, Western with Logan, and now this with a horror film. It's exciting time to be a comic book fan.
I'm so hyped for that. Now it's time for the blast from the past.
So the film I would recommend this week is Insomnia, which is directed by Christopher Nolan. It's one of his first films. He released it right after Memento, which was his first official movie. It's got Robin Williams in it. It's also got Al Pacino. Robin Williams putting in a performance that is different than maybe any performance he's ever given. It's set in Alaska. These two detectives, Al Pacino being one of them, go to Alaska to investigate a homicide of a young woman. And it is the movie that I think Snowman should have been, that crime set in a cold place, and it's incredible. What's your film?
I just want to say that's a great pick as well. I don't know how many Christopher Nolan fans haven't seen that film.
No.
It's amazing. Amazing performance from Robin Williams and Al Pacino, as you said, and I don't know how he managed to get that cast so early on in his career. It's a testament to him as a filmmaker. My pick is going back to Blade Runner, Denis Villeneuve, one of his earlier films, 2013's Prisoners. I don't know how many people haven't seen this film either.
Another film, cinematography by Roger Deakins.
Exactly, man. I mean, the film is beautifully shot, as is Blade Runner. A plot that seems simplistic, but is executed perfectly. Hugh Jackman and Terrence Howard's kids are kidnapped, and the twist here is that Hugh Jackman takes the law into his own hands and is kind of going up against Jake Gyllenhaal. Their stories are intersecting, and the idea of finding out who has took the kids. It's a brilliant mystery. clocks in at about 2 hours and 45 minutes,
Yeah.
a similar runtime.
Lengthy movie.
Yeah, he does a great job of fleshing out these characters and really make you care for them.
Yeah.
It's the best performance of Hugh Jackman's career for me, even
Easily.
better than that in Logan, I think.
You know, you've got Hugh Jackman, you've got Jake Gyllenhaal putting in an incredible performance as Detective Loki.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of his most overlooked films as well. But Prisoners, what a shout. Incredible movie. Highly recommend it to people as well.
Now it's time to guess the film. Each week we want you guys at home to tweet in and solve our film-related questions or problem.
If you think you know the answer, tweet us at Real Talk Keys, and we'll read out the winners on next week's show.
Now it's time to look to the future, and we took a trip to discuss what is on this week.
So I'm here today with Christy Ford to talk about the movies coming out this weekend. Christy, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing all right. What movies are coming out this weekend?
Basically, this Friday on the 20th of October, Geostorm is being released in cinemas, produced by Dean Devlin, starring Jared Butler, who was also in the film 300. And basically, it's about, the plot is that a satellite producer makes these satellites to protect the country, and the planet and everyone from these natural disasters that are threatening them. And then plot twist basically starts to ruin the planet itself, and it becomes a massive race against time of them against these
Natural
satellites
disasters,
and natural
yeah.
disasters to protect the planet before a geostorm comes and wipes everyone
That's
out.
fantastic. And it seems like pretty appropriate because it is Halloween coming
Definitely
up.
appropriate
Got that
for this time of
disaster,
year,
that
Damien,
action thriller.
definitely.
And of course, Jared Butler's in it, the guy from 300.
Yeah.
Shout out to my Spartans
Very
out there.
attractive man.
And like I said, it is appropriate for Halloween. We have another film coming out this weekend called Happy Death Day, which is produced by Blumhouse Studios, who have also made movies like Insidious and Sinister. Basically, Happy Death Day is about this girl who wakes up on her birthday, goes throughout her day, but then she goes to a party at night and she's killed by this serial killer, seemingly serial killer, with a baby mask, and she dies. But then she wakes up the next morning, and it's actually her birthday again. And she lives the day over and over again, but the plot twist is this time, is that this baby serial killer actually kills her every time she wakes up. And so basically, it's a race against time for her to also find out who the serial killer is, try to stop dying, live her full birthday without dying, and it seems appropriate again for this Halloween
Perfect for
season.
Halloween.
And of course, who isn't afraid of baby masks,
Yeah, I know,
right?
it's a bit freaky.
Yeah, it's pretty
It
creepy.
works.
But if those films aren't actually your cup of tea, we do still have our American Made, which has Tom Cruise in it. He's also in other movies such as Edge of Tomorrow, which is directed by Doug Liman, who's directed American Made. That's still out in theaters. It's about a CIA agent, Barry Seal, who is basically an undercover CIA agent working with Pablo Escobar and a few other big mob names. And it seems like a pretty fun thing if you're not into horror movies and if you're not into these
Halloween,
disasters. If you're not
definitely
feeling
go
baby
see
masks,
that.
check that out. You guys have that all weekend. Chrissy, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you too.
And back to you guys in the studio.
Now, unfortunately, that is all for today's show.
Now you can catch up on the previous episode on YouTube at Keys TV and follow us on Twitter at Real Talk Keys and let us know what you've been watching.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.